Well, it's a busy week for earnings reports. Tech companies, the main companies we'll have our eyes focused on here, and the granddaddy of them all perhaps could be Apple, with the company's first $100 billion quarter potentially coming through here when they report this week. For more on that, I want to bring on our next guest here to discuss what to expect. Newman is Futurum research principal right now. I'm going to be chatting with you again here. When you look at what to expect for Apple, obviously there's a lot of drivers to dig into here, but all kind of, channel checks for Apple providers for the iPhone seem to be pointing in the strong direction.
Yeah, it was a really big cycle. A lot of the analysts are, referring to it as a super cycle. This had to do with it being much more than just a series of incremental improvements, big improvements in things that people are focused on, like the camera, the battery life, but also it'd be remiss to not mention the 5G cycle. We've been hearing about this for a long time. Other companies like Huawei and Samsung had come out a year earlier, but we kind of hit this perfect moment, this inflection point where 5G is really taking off among operators from Verizon, T-Mobile, and others. Well, now Apple has come with its product to be able to compete in that space, and the expectations with the holiday season and the launch in the fall are some really strong numbers, and that's what's led to these 100 billion plus predictions for the quarter, some of these big earnings estimates, and an overall exuberance almost towards what's going to happen here on Wednesday when Apple reports.
And so, Daniel, how are you looking at the devices side in comparison to what we've been talking about with services? It feels like when you look at the past few earnings cycles, there's been so much focus on this is now all about services. And yet you talk about the iPhone revenue. I mean, that's got to provide a significant boost in the overall picture. How are you looking at these two different parts of Apple as we look ahead to Wednesday?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we're kind of at this interesting inflection, like I mentioned, because the iPhone's still going to be the vehicle that's going to get that $100 billion revenue. I mean, 60% nearly will be iPhone revenue, and a significant portion of the rest will be made up from iPads and Mac, which will be another 15 billion or so. And then you have wearables or hearables coming in at another 11 billion. So these are all really significant, but the market does tend to react strongly to the future and how the company will do. And services is an area of diversification that the company has to take very serious. In the last quarter, it talked about the Apple One bundle, and we're going to be really looking, did the uptake meet the expectation? And not just for some of its core products like iCloud, but what about TV Plus, Arcade, the News Plus? Are these bundles being bought, and how much growth are we getting out of that particular segment? Because people want to know that Apple is going to be competing and growing at a fast enough clip in the services space, because we know that the growth around hardware and devices cannot last forever. Margins continue to compress, but at the same time, the company has done some really great work with its A14 chip, with its M1 Mac chip, and this has led to double-digit growth. I think they're looking at 23% growth in iPad, 20% growth in Mac. So as much as even I at times, want to criticize that hardware can't be the carrier of the day and can't carry Apple forever forward, it's finding its balance. And if those services numbers are up, a lot of that bullish sentiment is valid.
What's your sense on how significant the uptake has been on the bundle? You talked about news, you talked about music, but also there's Apple Fitness. And the hope for Tim Cook has always been that this has kind of become sort of a fueling cycle where you've got the device, so inevitably you sign up for the services. Has that actually materialized to the level that you initially thought it would?
Yeah, it's been positive quarter over quarter, and people have felt very strongly about it, but maybe not as positive as some would like. We saw what Netflix did in the last quarter with its subscriber growth numbers. Apple has put some serious investment into a number of its Apple TV to its shows. You mentioned fitness and healthcare. I think it's there's a little bit of a lag, but I do expect that low double digit % growth is in the forecast and should be met. That 100, and as you saw, some targets even got risen today into the 105 and 106 billion. it's not all going to be phones. It's going to be a combination across the board. And like I said, a strength in services is going to definitely provide that booster among the investors and among Apple supporters that it warrants this kind of bullish sentiment. So I do think the company's made major investments. It has turned the corner with its services, and people are really starting to adopt them at scale. But the competition is high. There's lots of streaming services, lots of news and media services, and this is new territory for Apple to really play and really try to make a dent. But it is Apple, and so it'd be really hard at this time for me to bet against them.
All right, Daniel Newman, Futurum Research Principal Analyst. Appreciate you coming on here to chat. We'll see what happens when they report on Wednesday. Thanks again.
Thank you.